The storm didn't just roll into town, it sank into it, like something heavy finally deciding to settle. By the time Ethan Keller pulled into the cracked driveway of his late uncle's house, the clouds had already turned the sky into a dull iron lid. The home looked smaller than he remembered, like grief had squeezed it inward over the years. He killed the engine. The wipers froze mid-swipe, leaving a smear across the windshield as if the storm wanted to smudge him out of the picture. The house was cold even from the outside, the kind of cold that felt deliberate. Ethan adjusted his jacket, stepped out, and tried not to look at the attic windows. Yet he did, because everyone always does. Two windows like tired eyes, half-fogged, staring down at him. He told himself the feeling was just nostalgia wrapped in dread. He didn't believe it. Inside, the air felt heavier than winter should have made it. His uncle had only been dead for 9 days, and the scent of old books, dust, and something faintly metallic still clung to the walls. Ethan hadn't been here in nearly 15 years, not since the night he'd run out sobbing and screaming about a voice he'd heard whispering from the vents. His uncle had dismissed it as an overactive imagination. Ethan had always known better. He set his bag down on the kitchen counter. Silence swallowed everything instantly. The electrician was supposed to come tomorrow. Tonight he'd have to rely on the dim flicker of battery lamps. He clicked one on, and a weak yellow glow stretched across the dusty floor. The basement door was half open. He frowned. The realtor had sworn the place had been locked up. The door creaked on its own as he approached, not pushed by air, but by intention. He clicked the lamp brighter and descended. Every step felt like sinking deeper underwater. The basement hadn't changed. The same smell of damp concrete, the same tools his uncle left hanging like a museum of rust, the same old wooden table in the center, the one Ethan had never liked. The table made him remember the cassette. He didn't know why. But as soon as he crossed the last step, the hairs on his arms rose, and something, intuition, instinct, warning, pulled his eyes toward the far corner. There, behind a stack of moldy boxes, something black reflected his lamp. He moved closer. A cassette tape. Unlabeled except for one phrase written in his uncle's unmistakably precise handwriting. Tomorrow's screams. Ethan let out a breath that fogged the cold air. His uncle had been a radio producer decades ago, one who never quite adapted to the digital age. Cassette tapes were his comfort, his companions. But this one felt wrong, heavy, as if it had been waiting. He lifted it. The plastic casing was colder than the basement. A strange instinct flared, don't play it. But curiosity had always been Ethan's flaw, the same curiosity that had led him to work in sound engineering. He'd always believed audio held pieces of reality others overlooked. He slipped the tape into his jacket pocket and scanned the basement again. Nothing else seemed out of place, but when he turned toward the stairs, a distinct sound drifted through the dark. A whisper. Not like someone speaking from across the room, more like someone speaking from inside an empty bottle. It was soft, trembling, and the words weren't quite words, more like the shape of them without clarity. Not loud, not threatening, just there. Then gone. He froze. The lamp flickered. He backed up the stairs, every instinct screaming that the basement was watching him leave. Once he was back in the kitchen, he shut the basement door and leaned against it, breathing out the tension that had wound inside his chest. He tried laughing it off, but the sound died too quickly. He pulled the cassette from his pocket. He shouldn't. He knew he shouldn't, but he had to. He set up his portable cassette deck on the kitchen table, clicked it open, and slid the tape inside. The machine hummed to life. A single moment passed, then another. He pressed play. Nothing at first, just the faint static hiss of empty tape. Then the static tightened, sharpened, as if something behind it was trying to break through. A thump, a dragging sound, then a scream. High, sharp, agonized. He jolted, the lamp wobbling. The scream didn't sound like a performance. It didn't have the artificial rise of an actor. It ripped through the recorder like a real moment of terror. But what froze Ethan was the voice that followed. A man's voice. Breathing hard, trying to speak but choking on panic. "Please, if someone hears this, it's going to happen again. I can't stop it." It wasn't his uncle. Ethan leaned closer. The voice came through trembling, as if the speaker were holding the recorder while running. "It knows when I'm alone. It knows when I sleep. It knows the sound of my thoughts." Static swelled. Ethan's thumb hovered over stop, but he couldn't press it. The voice returned, softer. "I hear it in the walls. I hear it under the floor. I hear it crawling through the wires. Not a monster, not a ghost, something older." A long exhale pushed through the tape, and then, almost too soft to catch, "It can hear me right now." Ethan stopped breathing. Silence coated the room like a layer of ice. His pulse thudded in his ears. He leaned even closer, refusing to blink. The sound of scraping, metal against wood, rose slowly from the speaker. Then the man whispered, "Tomorrow, tomorrow it comes for me." The tape clicked, static, then dead silence. Ethan sat rigid, lamp buzzing. Tomorrow. The handwriting on the tape read, "Tomorrow's screams." He removed the tape, hands shaking. His breath fogged again despite the heater being on. He didn't like the way the air seemed to shift around him. He told himself it was nothing. He told himself his imagination was filling in gaps. But imagination didn't explain what happened next. From the basement, from behind the closed door, he heard it again. A whisper. This time, unmistakable. This time, calling his name. He froze mid-step. His voice caught somewhere between instinct and disbelief. He didn't answer. He couldn't. The whisper came again, longer, clearer, and each syllable curled through the old house like smoke. "Ethan!" The lamp flickered violently. Something touched the other side of the basement door, slow, deliberate, not knocking, but pressing. Something with weight. His throat went dry, his feet refused to move, his heart hammered so hard it felt like the house could hear it. He backed away one step, then two. The basement door handle twitched, just once, but that was enough. He grabbed the cassette, shoved it back into his pocket, and stepped away until his back hit the hallway wall. The door twitched again, this time more insistently. The whisper dissolved into a low, humming rumble, like a distant engine vibrating underground. Ethan turned and fled to the living room, slamming the door behind him. He locked it out of instinct, even though he knew a lock meant nothing to a whisper. He collapsed on the couch, hugging himself, trying to rationalize what he'd heard. But there was only one explanation. The voice on the tape wasn't warning someone from the past. It was warning whoever pressed play next. Warning him. Warning right now. When he finally dared to lift the lamp again, its dim glow revealed something that made his skin crawl.
A fresh trail of dust disturbed across the hallway floor, moving from the basement door toward the living room, as if something had crawled, or dragged, or slid right up to where he was sitting. His breath hitched. The lamp flickered and went out, and in the pitch black, right beside his ear, he heard the faintest sound, a wet, trembling inhale. Not human, not close, right next to him. And the whisper that followed made his entire body lock in terror. Tomorrow's screams start tonight.
The darkness didn't just fill the room. It pressed against Ethan like a second skin. For a moment he forgot how to breathe, afraid the thing beside him might inhale his breath as its own. He held still, listening. The whisper was gone. The presence wasn't. Something shifted inches from him, a slow, damp movement, like fabric sliding across wet concrete. Ethan clenched his jaw, his pulse hammering so hard he swore it would echo. Every instinct screamed at him to run, but his legs wouldn't cooperate. Fear had turned them into stone columns. He forced his eyes open, though all he saw was thicker darkness, a shadow within a shadow. He reached blindly for the lamp, fingers brushing metal. Then something else brushed back, a texture like cold cartilage. Ethan jerked his hand away. His chest seized, and a small, involuntary noise escaped him, a sharp breath, too loud in the silent room. That single sound broke whatever stalemate he'd held. The presence retreated, not back toward the hallway, but downward, as if melting into the floorboards. The wooden slats beneath him creaked softly, not with the weight of footsteps, but with the sloughing descent of something boneless. The pressure in the room lightened just enough for Ethan to gasp for air. He didn't wait. He pushed himself off the couch, stumbling across the room, desperately feeling along the wall until his fingers grazed the old fuse box. He yanked it open, flicked every switch, slammed it shut. Nothing. Of course the power was out. The lamp, he needed the lamp. He shuffled forward cautiously, feeling along furniture edges until his hand brushed the metal frame again. He grasped it quickly and thumbed the switch. Light sputtered, flickered, buzzed, then finally flared to life. The room was empty. Empty, but wrong. Dust that had lain untouched for years now formed disturbed lines along the floor, curling patterns like trails left by tentacles or fingers dragged backward. Ethan's throat tightened. Nothing natural moved like that. Nothing human. He stared toward the hallway where the smear of dust across the floor ended, right at the living room door he had slammed behind him. The underside of the door frame was darkly smudged, as though something had pressed against it, hard. He swallowed. He needed answers. He needed light. He needed to understand why the tape existed. His lamp's glow trembled as he crossed to the kitchen, the cassette still heavy in his pocket. When he pulled it out again, the plastic felt warmer than before, like something inside was alive. He set it on the table and backed away, running a shaking hand through his hair. His uncle had left this for a reason. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't a hobby project. Men didn't label tapes "Tomorrow's Screams" because they were bored. And the voice on the tape, the terrified man, had mentioned something following him, something crawling through walls, floors, wires, something that could hear thoughts. Ethan paced, back and forth, trying to piece things together before panic tore him apart. The storm outside thickened, slamming rain against the windows hard enough to rattle the glass. Thunder cracked, shaking the house down to its bones. Lightning flashed, and something flickered in the window. A shape, a silhouette far too close. Ethan froze. Another flash. The shape was gone. The storm swallowed the world outside. He grabbed his jacket, threw it over his shoulders, and headed for the front door. He needed to get out. He'd drive to a motel, call the electrician early, figure it out in the morning. He reached for the knob. It didn't turn. He twisted harder. Nothing. He twisted until his knuckles whitened, until pain shot through his wrist, but the lock wouldn't budge. It wasn't stuck. It was resisting. The lamp buzzed behind him. He turned slowly. Something moved across the living room wall. Just a faint shift, the suggestion of a shadow passing behind plaster. Ethan stepped away from the door. Behind him, the hallway creaked, one long groan as if the floorboards were adjusting to a new weight. Not his. He raised the lamp toward the sound. The hallway was empty. But the shadows weren't behaving right. They weren't static. They weren't attached to objects. They rippled, long and stretched, as though something just outside the light's reach was dragging its limbs across the walls. Every instinct in Ethan's body screamed to run. The hallway light fixture flickered, and in that brief flash of illumination, something stood at the far end. A silhouette, tall, bent, arms too long, head tilted like it wasn't sure how a neck worked. Lightning cracked outside, and the shape vanished again. Ethan didn't think. He ran.
He sprinted back into the kitchen, nearly knocking over the cassette deck. He grabbed it, grabbed the tape, grabbed anything he could find, a flashlight, his phone, matches, and bolted toward the laundry room at the back of the house. There was a side door there, one that might work. He reached it, twisted the lock. It clicked open. He exhaled, relief flooding him. He reached for the knob. The lights died. All of them. Even the lamp. Darkness slammed into him like a tidal wave. He froze. Behind him, in the house, something exhaled, raspy, wet, eager, like a creature savoring the scent of prey before the first bite. Ethan clawed at the doorknob, pulling hard. It didn't budge. The lock had clicked open, but something was holding the door shut from the outside. Something strong. The exhale grew louder, crawling closer. Ethan fumbled for his phone, tapping the screen desperately. The faint glow lit his trembling hands. He pointed it into the room. The shadows retreated from the light, writhing across the walls like living ink fleeing a flame. Then, just for a fraction of a second, his phone light caught something at the far end of the room. A face. Pale. Wet. Bent backward under the floorboards, staring up through a crack in the wood. Two milky eyes fastened on him. The thing smiled, and the skin around its mouth split like old cloth. Ethan screamed. His phone flickered, dimmed, died. He shoved himself away from the door, whipping around blindly. His shoulder slammed into a shelf, something glass shattering at his feet. He dropped onto his hands and knees, crawling in a panic until his fingers hit something smooth, plastic. The cassette. He hadn't realized he'd dropped it. It felt hot now, too hot. He jerked his hand back in pain, but forced himself to pick it up again, clutching it as if it were a lifeline. Because somehow he knew it was. Behind him, the thing in the shadows moved, faster now, as if the room excited it. Ethan scrambled to his feet, running back toward the living room. He didn't know where to go. He didn't know how to escape, but he knew he had to keep moving. The house groaned as if it were breathing. The walls contracted, the floorboards expanded, the air thickened into something humid and animate. Like the house itself was alive, or becoming alive, because something inside it wanted a body. He raced down the hallway, shadows grasping at his ankles, and burst into his uncle's study. He slammed the door shut and pressed his weight against it. Silence. Then, a slow scrape across the door frame, followed by a whisper that curled through the keyhole like smoke. "Ethan, play the rest." His stomach dropped. The tape wasn't finished. He hadn't reached the end.
He didn't want to play it, but every fiber in his being told him the tape wasn't just a recording. It was instructions. He hurried to the bookshelf and found his uncle's old cassette recorder, a sturdier, older model with large speakers and manual dials. Dust coated it, but it powered on when he hit the switch. Lightning cracked outside. The whisper at the door quieted. With shaking hands, Ethan slid the cassette into the recorder. He hit play.
The tape sputtered, hissed, then the man's terrified voice returned, more frantic now, as if speaking while hiding. "They don't come from the shadows," the man whispered. "They make the shadows. They feed on the moments between breaths. They move when you close your eyes, when you blink, when you look away." A crash sounded outside the study door, something heavy slamming into the wall. Ethan flinched, but kept listening. "You can't run," the voice trembled. "They don't follow you. They wait where you're going." Another impact, this time on the door itself. The doorknob rattled violently. The voice on the tape lowered to a desperate hiss. "They can't stand light, not real light, not the kind humans make, but the kind that comes from memory, from sound, from..." A horrible distortion tore through the speakers, like flesh dragged across metal wiring. Then the man gasped, "If you hear them whisper, it means they're already in your walls." The study door bowed inward. Ethan stumbled back, but the tape kept playing. "It recorded them," the man breathed. "The tape recorded them before they arrived. It hears what they will do, what they will hunt. It records tomorrow, and tomorrow cannot be changed." The doorknob twisted violently, full rotation, then stopped. Silence. Ethan's pulse throbbed like a drum in his ears. The voice on the tape whispered, "Unless you record something back." The door exploded inward. Darkness poured into the room like a living creature, limbs unfurling, stretching across the ceiling, crawling down the walls, a shifting mass of shadow-like flesh and glistening sinew. It moved with sudden, fluid violence, reforming into something vaguely human, vaguely insectoid, vaguely starving. Ethan staggered backward until his shoulders hit the bookshelf. Its head cocked toward him, mouth splitting wider, fingers unraveling into sharp, silk-thin tendrils. The tape clicked, paused, then began to rewind on its own. The creature froze, not moving, not breathing, listening. The tape stopped rewinding. Silence. Then, a single faint sound played. A scream. But not a scream from earlier. Not the man's. Ethan's. A scream he hadn't made yet. His breath caught. The creature leaned forward, its long limbs trembling with anticipation like a predator hearing the dinner bell ring. And then, the tape finished rewinding. It clicked. The creature pounced. Ethan grabbed the recorder and swung blindly. The impact barely slowed it down, but it angled its head, startled by the sudden burst of white noise that sputtered from the recorder when it hit the ground. It recoiled, only slightly, but enough. Ethan lunged, grabbing the recorder and smashing the record button. A red light flicked on. The creature shrieked, an ear-splitting, static-laden howl. The tape began recording its scream. The monster twisted violently, trying to flee, but the red light locked it in place, pinning it like an insect in amber. Its limbs contorted, its form glitching like corrupted film. The tape recorder shook violently in Ethan's hands, nearly ripping itself apart.
Then the creature burst into a cloud of black dust, a shrieking swirl of shadows, and vanished through the cracks in the floor. All that remained was the cassette vibrating in his hands. A new label, written in fresh ink he didn't remember seeing. Tonight's survival. Ethan collapsed to the floor, chest heaving, sweat cold as ice. The storm outside calmed. The house felt eerily silent. No whispers, no movement. But the cassette felt heavier. Like something new was inside it. Something recorded. Something waiting. He stared at it, trembling, because the tape was warm again. Alive again. Changing again. And he realized with horror that the blank side of the cassette, side B, now had writing etched into it. Not by his uncle, not by him, but by whatever had been in the walls. The words made his blood run cold. Tomorrow's screams, 2:47 a.m. He looked at the clock. It was 2:11 a.m., and the whisper in the walls behind him confirmed the awful truth. The next scream the tape had recorded, the scream waiting to happen, was his. And it was going to happen tonight.
The clock on the wall ticked like a metronome, counting down a life. 2:12 a.m. Two numbers, glowing faintly in the darkened study, carrying a promise he couldn't outrun. Tomorrow's screams, 2:47 a.m. The writing burned in Ethan's mind as if branded on his skull. His breath came in short bursts, his pulse a frantic drumbeat beneath his skin. Somewhere inside the walls, something moved, quietly, deliberately, like a predator adjusting its position for the killing blow. He clutched the cassette, feeling the heat radiating through its plastic shell. The tape inside vibrated softly, like a heartbeat. He didn't know what would happen at 2:47, but he knew it would involve him screaming. And he knew the thing wasn't gone. He had recorded its voice, trapped its scream, but not destroyed it. Its echo lived inside the tape, and its body lived somewhere in the house, or worse, under it. A soft crack echoed through the walls, like knuckles popping just inches behind the plaster. Ethan jerked his head toward the sound, heart stumbling in his chest. Another crack. Another shift. The lights in the house flickered once, briefly, as if the entire electrical system had flinched. He needed a plan. He needed answers. He needed to know what his uncle had been dealing with. He scanned the room with the trembling beam of his flashlight, the shadow skittering away from its edges. On the top shelf of the study's bookcase, he spotted a box labeled in his uncle's handwriting. Auditory Phenomena, Private Notes. He grabbed the box, dust clouding around him. He ripped off the lid and dumped the contents across the floor. Cassette notes, diagrams, tapes, sketches, torn scraps of radio logs. One page caught his eye immediately. A journal entry with shaky handwriting, as if written by a dying hand. It doesn't kill immediately. It warns first. It likes fear seasoned with anticipation. It records what it will do, because the act of recording makes it real. Reality obeys recorded sound. Ethan swallowed hard. Reality obeys recorded sound? His uncle had always been a strange man, but he wasn't insane. Everything written here was deliberate. He flipped to another page. A sound captured becomes a sound commanded. If you record its hunger, it will feed. If you record its scream, it will crawl to the source. If you record your own fear, it will know the taste of you. Ethan lowered the paper, breath stuttering. The tape had recorded him. His scream, his fear, his voice.
By 2:47, the creature would come for the moment it already heard, the moment it knew was fated. His stomach clenched. He dug deeper into the box, flipping pages faster. Another note. Only one law binds it. Only one weakness. Sound that contradicts the recorded future. A new recording that overwrites fate. You must speak what you wish to be true. Record it before the creature arrives. Ethan blinked. Was that even possible? He read the line again. A new recording overwrites tomorrow. He looked at the cassette recorder on the floor. It was battered, old, dented, but still working. Behind him, the floorboards groaned. He stiffened, turning slowly. Something shifted in the dark, low, slithering, like a body dragging itself forward by its elbows. His hands tightened around the paper. The creature was coming whether he was ready or not.
The clock ticked again. 2:21 a.m. 26 minutes. He had 26 minutes to rewrite whatever the tape insisted was inevitable. He knelt beside the recorder, pressing his shaking fingers against the record button, but stopped. What should he record? What would change fate? What words had power over something not fully real, not fully flesh, not fully shadow? His uncle's notes offered a final line. Record only truth, even if you must invent it. His breath caught. He needed to record a future where he survived, a future where the creature couldn't kill him, a future where tomorrow's scream never belonged to him. But before he pressed record, something soft brushed the study's window from the outside. A fingertip. Long, pale, wrong. Ethan's heart lurched. The creature was outside. Lightning flashed, and for a moment it was visible. Its face pressed against the glass, skin stretched thin, eyes bulging like wet pearls. Its jaw hung crookedly, trembling with anticipation. Its fingers tapped along the window pane in a rhythm that almost matched the ticking of the clock. Tap, 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 as if keeping time with the countdown to 2:47. Ethan stumbled back from the window, choking on fear. The creature's mouth opened, revealing that same ghastly grin, half shredded, half hungry, and it whispered through the glass, its voice like static leaking through concrete. Scream for me. The window frosted over every syllable. Ethan grabbed the recorder and slammed his thumb on record. This is not my fate. I survive tonight. The creature fails. I make it to morning. This house cannot kill me. He spoke the words like a spell, like a weapon. His voice echoed inside the recorder. Reality held its breath. The creature hissed outside. Even through the walls, he could hear its fury. Ethan kept recording, louder now. I live beyond 2:47 a.m. My scream never comes. I am still alive when the sun rises. The creature shrieked, slamming its whole body against the window. The glass spiderwebbed. Dust rained from the ceiling. The house trembled. Ethan shouted into the recorder again. I survived this night. The window shattered. The creature poured in like a storm, arms stretching, body unfolding like a wet tapestry. Ethan threw himself backward, clutching the recorder as the monster lunged toward him, its limbs cracking against the floor, its chest rippling with unnatural hunger. It rushed him, but just as its claws reached his throat, the recorder clicked. Recording ended. The creature froze mid-lunge, limbs twitching as if struck by an invisible force. Its fingers hovered inches from Ethan's skin.
Its jaw quivered. Its milky eyes bulged. Then its body convulsed violently, like the tape inside Ethan's recorder was rewriting its existence second by second.
The tape whirred inside the machine, spitting out magnetic ribbon and grinding the recorded future into dust. The creature shrieked, a horrible, contorted scream that vibrated the floorboards, and its body began to collapse inward, crumbling, folding, dissolving into a storm of black dust. The dust curled upward, forming a vortex that sucked itself back into the shattered walls and broken floorboards, disappearing into every crack it came from, until nothing was left. Ethan dropped to his knees, shaking so hard he nearly vomited. Sweat drenched his clothes. His heart hammered like a runaway drum inside his chest. Slowly, painfully, he looked up at the study's clock. 2:46 a.m., 1 minute before the recorded scream, and the house was silent. He waited. His breath held. The second hand crawled forward. 2:47 a.m. Tick. Nothing happened. Tick. Still nothing. The silence held. He had overwritten fate. He had survived. Ethan's entire body sagged with relief. A tear escaped down his cheek before he even realized he'd been crying. He clutched the recorder to his chest like a lifeline. Then, something unexpected happened. The recorder clicked. He froze. It clicked again. Once. Twice. Like something inside was positioning itself. Then, the cassette ejected on its own. Ethan stared at it, trembling. The label that once read "Tomorrow's Screams, 2:47 a.m." was now blank. Completely blank, as if erasing its claim on him erased its own future. He picked up the tape. Cold. Dead. Just plastic again. No vibration, no warmth, no whisper. Ethan let out a shaky exhale and stood, legs trembling, chest still heaving. He stepped over the broken glass and dust, making his way into the hallway. He opened the front door. This time, it opened easily. The storm had passed. The sky was a dark blue, the kind that comes right before dawn. The wind was cool, fresh, alive. He stepped onto the porch, taking his first full breath in hours. He was free. But as he walked toward his car, cassette in hand, he noticed something strange. The cassette was no longer blank. A new line of text now appeared on the label, slowly, like ink seeping through paper. The survivor's voice, "Do not play." Ethan stopped, cold. The ink continued forming. Side B, tomorrow, 3:12 a.m. His stomach dropped. His breath caught. 3:12 a.m. He looked up at the sky. Somewhere behind him, inside the house he thought he'd escaped, something whispered his name. Soft, patient, hungry. And he realized the truth. He hadn't changed fate. He had delayed it. Tomorrow's screams were still coming. And now, they belonged to someone who survived once. Someone the tape wasn't finished with. Someone it wanted back. Ethan's fingers went numb. The tape pulsed warm again. And in the pre-dawn silence, the whisper that curled through the air sealed his fate. We write tomorrow together.